I'm Abigail Carter, 34, and on paper, my life looks like a win. I'm a marketing manager at a fast-paced firm in Chicago's Loop, with a corner office that catches the morning sun glinting off the skyline. My Logan Square apartment is my haven: exposed brick walls, a jungle of houseplants, and a turntable spinning vintage jazz on quiet nights. My colleagues call me the one who gets it done, and I've got the awards to prove it. But beneath the polish, there's a knot of memories I've spent years trying to untangle. Growing up in Lake Forest, a wealthy suburb north of Chicago where Teslas and manicured lawns are standard, I was the oldest daughter of James and Elizabeth Carter, founders of Carter's Organic Markets, a grocery chain that turned their knack for trends into a $12 million empire. To the world, we were picture-perfect, big house, 2 daughters, all the trappings of success. Inside, it was a different story. As the big sister, I was the responsible one, the kid who aced tests, kept her room spotless, and followed every rule my parents laid down. Dad, with his CEO handshake, and Mom, always poised in her tailored blazers, would sit me down at the kitchen island, their faces serious. Abigail, plan for the future. Save every penny. Make us proud. I soaked it up, craving their approval, but it always felt like chasing a mirage. Then there was Sophia, 7 years younger, the golden child in every way. With Mom's hazel eyes, Dad's easy charm, and a smile that could light up a room, Sophia was impossible to ignore. At holiday dinners, relatives fawned over her, slipping her extra pie while I cleared plates. Neighbors whispered about her as the pretty one. I'd watch her twirl through our living room, her laughter pulling everyone in, while I faded into the wallpaper, my plain brown hair and quiet voice no match for her glow. It wasn't just her looks. Sophia had a way of bending the world to her will. 10, she landed a modeling gig for a local boutique after a scout spotted her in a school play. By high school, she was an Instagram influencer, her sunlit selfies by Lake Michigan racking up thousands of likes. Our parents, who'd built their empire on discipline, melted around her. They'd hand her cash for weekend trips or new outfits, no questions asked, while I had to justify every dollar I spent on school supplies. "Abigail, you're the sensible one," Mom would say, her tone half proud, half expectant. "Sophia's just Sophia." That phrase cut deeper than I could admit, a reminder I'd never be their star. I loved Sophia once. As a toddler, she'd trail after me, her tiny hand in mine, giggling my name like it was her favorite song. I'd braid her hair, help with her math, cheer at her dance recitals. But as she grew, her adoration turned sharp. By middle school, she'd tease my boring sweaters or flat nose, her laughter slicing through me. At a family barbecue, she pointed at me and told a cousin, "Abigail's the brainy one, but I got the looks." Everyone chuckled. I forced a smile, my cheeks burning. Mom and Dad just changed the subject. The worst was my senior year. I'd saved for months to buy a dress for prom, a rare splurge to feel seen. Sophia, then 14, took it from my closet and wore it to a party. Came back stained, and she shrugged. "Oops, my bad." I begged Mom to say something, but she sighed. "Don't be so hard on Sophia, Abigail." That was the breaking point. I applied to Northwestern, packed my bags, and moved to Chicago, determined to escape her shadow. I kept my distance from Lake Forest, skipping holidays with excuses about work. But even now, standing in my apartment, the Chicago skyline sparkling below, I feel the ache of those years, a bruise that's faded but never quite healed. Here in the world are you listening from? I'd genuinely love to know, are you tuning in from the US, Vietnam, Canada, Australia, or somewhere else? Feel free to drop your country in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I sincerely recommend you do it right now. Because these aren't just ordinary stories, they're reflections on real-life experiences, kind that stay with you, challenge you, and maybe even change you. So hit that subscribe button and let's keep growing through these stories together. It was a rainy Saturday in Chicago, the kind where the city feels like it's holding its breath. I was cleaning out my Logan Square apartment, tackling a pile of boxes I'd been avoiding for months. Most were relics from my move out of Lake Forest years ago, old textbooks, high school yearbooks, stuff I'd meant to sort but never had the heart to face. One box, marked Mom's Keepsakes in my handwriting, had come from my parents' house after I left for Northwestern. I'd shoved it into a closet, not ready to deal with the memories. But that day, with jazz playing softly on my turntable and rain pattering against my windows, I felt a pull to open it. Inside were faded photos, a pearl necklace Mom used to wear, and tucked beneath a scarf, a worn leather journal. My breath caught. It was Mom's handwriting on the cover, Elizabeth Carter, 1980. I sat cross-legged on my hardwood floor, the journal in my lap, hesitant. Mom, Elizabeth Carter, was always so composed, her life a checklist of perfect decisions. Marry Dad, build Carter's organic markets, raise 2 daughters in a Lake Forest mansion. What could she have written that warranted a hidden diary? I opened it, and her words hit me like a gust of cold wind. Pages were filled with dreams she'd never shared. As a young woman, Mom wanted to be a playwright, crafting stories for Chicago's theater scene. She'd written half a play, scribbled notes about auditions, even saved rejection letters from small theaters. But her parents, my grandparents, had other plans. "Marry James," they told her. "He's ambitious, stable. Dreams don't pay bills." She did, abandoning her scripts to help Dad launch his grocery empire. The entries grew darker after my birth. Mom wrote about feeling trapped, her creativity stifled by diaper changes and business meetings. She poured her unfulfilled ambitions into me, her firstborn. "Abigail must succeed," she wrote. "She'll carry the discipline I lost. She'll make our sacrifices worth it." My chest tightened as I read. Those late-night lectures about saving pennies, the pressure to get straight A's, the constant push to be sensible, it wasn't just parenting. It was Mom trying to live through me, to redeem her own regrets. Then came Sophia. "She's so free," Mom wrote. "I won't let her feel the weight I did. Let her shine, let her be happy." That's why Sophia got cash for new clothes, why her mistakes were brushed off with a smile. Mom saw Sophia as a second chance, a way to protect the dreamer she'd once been. I closed the journal, my hands shaking. Rain streaked my apartment windows, mirroring the tears I hadn't realized were falling. I was angry, furious, at Mom for unloading her failures onto me, for making me the vessel of her discipline while Sophia got her indulgence. It wasn't just favoritism. It was a deliberate choice rooted in Mom's own wounds. I thought of all the times I'd felt invisible, my good grades dismissed while Sophia's Instagram posts earned Dad's proud grin. But I was heartbroken too for the young woman Mom had been, forced to bury her plays and her passion. I saw her in my mind's eye, standing in our Lake Forest kitchen, her tailored blazer hiding a heart full of what-ifs. The discovery shifted something in me. I wasn't just fighting Sophia's shadow or my parents' approval, I was grappling with Mom's unresolved pain, a legacy I'd inherited without knowing. I stood, pacing my apartment, the Chicago skyline muted by clouds. I wanted to scream, to call Mom and demand why she'd never told me. But I couldn't. She was gone, and I was left with her truth. I tucked the journal into a drawer, vowing not to let her past define me. Yet the ache lingered, a bruise pressed too hard. I'd built a life in Chicago to escape Lake Forest, but this secret made me realize escaping wasn't enough. I had to face the hurt, or it would follow me forever. Call came on a gray April morning, rain drumming against my office window in Chicago's Loop. I was mid-pitch, tweaking a campaign slide when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. It was the police. My parents, James and Elizabeth Carter, had died in a private plane crash en route to a business meeting in Denver. No survivors. The words felt like a punch to the chest, knocking the air out of me. I mumbled something to my boss, grabbed my coat, and stumbled into the rain, my mind numb. At 34, I'd assumed I had years to mend the distance I'd put between us, time to earn the love I'd always craved. But life doesn't wait for reconciliation. I booked a flight to Lake Forest that night, my heart heavy with grief and the ghosts of our past. The funeral was held at First Presbyterian Church in Lake Forest, a stone building where my family had sat in the same pew for decades. I took charge of everything, choosing the casket, arranging white lilies, coordinating the reception at the country club. It was what I did, the responsible one, holding it together while the world fell apart. Church was packed with mourners, business associates from Carter's organic markets, neighbors in tailored coats, relatives I hadn't seen in years. I greeted them with a tight smile, my black dress feeling like armor. Sophia, now 27, floated through the crowd like a movie star in mourning. Her sleek black sheath dress hugged her frame, her hazel eyes red-rimmed but magnetic. People flocked to her, offering hugs and whispered sympathies while I stood by the altar, adjusting hymnals no one would read. Sophia's tears were real, I'll give her that. She sobbed during the eulogy, clutching a tissue, her grief drawing every eye in the room. But it felt performative, too. She'd slip into a corner afterward, checking her phone, her Instagram already flooded with condolence posts captioned with heart emojis. I wanted to scream at her to help, to do something, call the caterer, greet an aunt, anything. But I bit my tongue, the weight of being the sensible sister heavier than ever. Relatives didn't help. "You two are so different," a cousin remarked, eyeing Sophia's elegance against my plain dress. "She's got Elizabeth's looks, doesn't she?" I nodded, my jaw tight, the old sting of comparison cutting deep. The breaking point came at the reception, held in the country club's oak-paneled ballroom. I was refilling coffee urns, my hands trembling from exhaustion, when I overheard Aunt Margaret at a nearby table. "Sophia's the perfect heir to the Carter legacy," she said, her voice carrying. "James and Elizabeth must be so proud looking down." Something snapped inside me, a dam I'd held for years. I set the coffee pot down, my heart pounding, and turned to face the room. "Perfect heir," I said, louder than I meant. Heads turned, forks paused mid-bite. Sophia froze, a glass of wine in her hand. "Let me tell you about the perfect heir." 4 years, Sophia got everything, cash for clothes, trips, no rules. She'd take my things, ruin them, mock me, and Mom and Dad never said a word. They called me sensible, but it meant invisible. I was never enough for them, not like her. The room went silent, the air thick with shock. I kept going, years of pain spilling out. She'd steal my earrings, my dress, even my prom outfit, and they'd laugh it off. That's just Sophia. I was the one who followed their rules, but they saved their pride for her Instagram likes. My voice cracked, but I couldn't stop. Sophia's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Abigail, don't," she whispered, but I barely heard her. Mourners stared, some shifting uncomfortably, others wide-eyed. Aunt Margaret stammered, "Abigail, this isn't the place." But it was. For the first time, I was saying the truth out loud. Sophia bolted from the room, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Crowd murmured, and I stood there, trembling, my chest heaving. Part of me felt free, like I'd finally shed the weight of silence. But another part twisted with regret. Had I gone too far, humiliating her in front of everyone? I looked at the lilies on the table, their scent heavy, and thought of Mom's diary, her own buried pain. This outburst wasn't just about Sophia, it was about a family that had never seen me. As I sank into a chair, Mia, my old college friend who'd driven up for the funeral, squeezed my hand. "You needed to say it," she whispered. I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. That moment, raw and messy, was the first time I faced my pain head-on. I didn't know what came next, but I knew I couldn't go back to being the shadow. Carter family house in Lake Forest stood like a faded photograph, its grand brick exterior and ivy-draped columns hiding years of secrets and strain. A week after Mom and Dad's funeral, I walked through the front door, the familiar creak of the oak floorboards stirring memories I'd tried to bury. 34, I'd built a life in Chicago, my cozy Logan Square apartment, my marketing job with a corner office, but standing in this house, I was Abigail Carter, the overlooked sister again. Today, Sophia and I were here to divide the estate, but I braced myself for a fight. Sophia never shared anything, least of all what she believed was hers by divine right. She was already in the dining room, her designer heels clicking as she paced, her auburn curls catching the light from the chandelier. At 27, Sophia was a vision, Instagram perfect, with a confidence that could bend the world to her will. "Let's make this simple, Abby," she said, her voice smooth but sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. "The 12 million is mine. Mom and Dad always said I was their pride and joy." She leaned against the polished mahogany table, her emerald eyes daring me to challenge her. "You know they loved me more." Her words hit like a punch, reopening old wounds. Growing up, I'd been the responsible one, straight A's, saving every dime of my allowance, while Sophia, the radiant influencer, got endless praise, cash, and forgiveness for every misstep. She'd mocked my clothes, stolen my leather jacket, even ruined my prom dress, and our parents, James and Elizabeth Carter, had just shrugged. I'd spent years trying to escape her shadow, but here we were, fighting over their legacy like scavengers. "The will says it's split, Sophia," I said, my voice steady despite the anger simmering in my chest. 6 million each. You don't get to rewrite their rules." She laughed, a cold, cutting sound that echoed through the room. "Rules? Oh, Abby, you're so predictable. Always playing by the book. This isn't about paperwork, it's about what's right. They built Carter's organic markets for me." She gestured at the room, as if the antique silver candlesticks and faded Persian rugs were her birthright. I wanted to scream, to list every time she'd hurt me, every time Mom and Dad had chosen her over me, but before I could, the front door opened. A man in a crisp navy suit stepped inside, clutching a clipboard. "Ms. Carter? Abigail Carter?" he asked, his eyes darting between us. His name tag read Elliot Grayson, Grayson Auction House. He adjusted his glasses, clearly sensing the tension but pressing on. "I'm here to appraise the estate for the executor. We need to catalog the assets before any distribution can proceed." Sophia's posture stiffened, her arms crossing. "Appraise? This is my house," she snapped, her voice dripping with entitlement. "We're not selling anything. Tell the executor to back off." Elliot hesitated, flipping through his notes. "I'm sorry, Ms. Carter, but there's a problem." He cleared his throat, his discomfort palpable. "Your father took out a second mortgage on this property 3 years ago to cover debts from the supermarket chain. Carter's Organic Markets has been losing money for years. The house is underwater, worth less than the loan. The 12 million in liquid assets is all that's left after the creditors are paid." The air in the room turned to ice. Sophia's face went pale, her perfectly manicured nails gripping the edge of the table. "What?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "That can't be true. Dad promised me. He said the estate was secure." Her eyes, usually so sharp, flickered with panic. 4 years, she'd built her identity around being the Carter heiress, the one who'd inherit the kingdom. Now, that kingdom was a house of cards, collapsing under Dad's hidden failures. I should have felt smug watching her illusion shatter, but all I felt was exhaustion. My whole life, I'd competed with her for love, for validation, for a scrap of our parents' attention. Finding Mom's diary last week, reading how she projected her own crushed dreams onto me while spoiling Sophia, had only deepened the ache. I was tired of the fight, tired of being defined by this family. Standing in the dining room, surrounded by memories, the table where I'd done homework while Sophia got coddled, the fireplace where Mom ignored my tears, I made a decision. "Sophia," I said, my voice low but firm, "I'm done. You want the money? Take it. All 12 million. But there's a condition." I stepped closer, meeting her stunned gaze. "You never contact me again. No calls, no texts, no showing up when your world falls apart. "We're through." Her mouth opened, then closed, disbelief flashing across her face. "You're giving up $6 million?" she asked, her tone laced with suspicion. "What's your angle, Abby?" "No angle," I said, my throat tight. "I'm choosing myself." For the first time. I turned toward the door, my boots heavy on the floor. Sophia's smirk returned, weaker now, but still defiant. "Fine," she said, tossing her hair. "Go live your sad little life. I don't need you." I walked out, the November air sharp against my skin. The house, with its memories of Mom's baking lessons and Dad's rare, warm smiles, felt like a chain I'd finally broken. My heart was heavy, grieving the family I'd never truly had, but as I climbed into my car, I felt a weight lift. Sophia could have the money, the house, the illusion of victory. I'd chosen freedom, even if it cost me a fortune and a piece of my past. Driving away from Lake Forest, the Chicago skyline on the horizon, I knew I'd finally stepped out of her shadow and into my own light. 3 months after I walked away from the Carter family house in Lake Forest, my phone buzzed relentlessly, Sophia's name lighting up the screen like a warning flare. I'd moved on, or tried to, settling back into my Logan Square apartment, my marketing job, and the quiet rhythm of a life I'd built without her shadow. But Sophia, true to form, refused to let me go quietly. Her voicemails piled up, each one more desperate than the last. "Abby, I need you," she'd say, her voice trembling in a way that didn't match the polished influencer I knew. "It's all falling apart. Please." I deleted them without replying, but each message chipped away at the walls I'd worked so hard to build. Truth came in fragments, pieced together from her frantic calls and whispers from old family friends. The $12 million estate Sophia had claimed wasn't the golden ticket she'd imagined. Most of it was tied up in Carter's organic markets, real estate, inventory, and a web of loans Dad had taken to keep the failing chain afloat. After the creditors took their cut, Sophia was left with a fraction of the cash she'd expected, and the debts kept coming. She'd posted about her new chapter on Instagram, posing in designer dresses against the backdrop of the Lake Forest house, captioning it with hashtags like #AristOmpire. That bravado had drawn vultures, and one of them, a smooth-talking finance bro named Ryan Mitchell, saw his chance. From what I gathered, Ryan had convinced Sophia the remaining cash, about $1.5 million after the initial settlements, was at risk in the estate's accounts. He'd spun a tale about safeguarding it, urging her to withdraw it for some shady investment scheme. She'd trusted him, dazzled by his promises and probably his tailored suits, only to find the money gone, wired to an offshore account she'd never see again. The betrayal was splashed across her Instagram stories, vague posts about trusting the wrong people followed by tearful selfies. She was drowning, and she wanted me to throw her a lifeline. One night, my phone rang at 2 a.m. I stared at Sophia's name, my thumb hovering over the decline button. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Abby, please," she sobbed, her voice raw. "I'm sorry for everything. The money's gone. Ryan took it all. I don't know what to do." She paused, her breath shaky. Can I come stay with you? Just for a while? I have nowhere else to go." I closed my eyes, the weight of her words pulling me back to childhood. I saw us as kids, Sophia's tiny hand in mine as we ran through the backyard, giggling under the stars before everything soured. That memory clawed at me, but so did the years of her cruelty, her mocking laughter, her stolen earrings, the way Mom and Dad always took her side. I'd spent my life trying to earn their love, only to learn from Mom's diary that their favoritism was rooted in her own broken dreams, not my worth. I'd fought too hard for my peace to let Sophia drag me back into her chaos. "No, Sophia," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "I can't. You made your choice, and I made mine." The line went silent, her sobs softening into a stunned hush. "I'm sorry you're hurting, but I'm not your safety net anymore." I hung up, my hands trembling. The next day, I changed my number, severing the last thread between us. Felt like betrayal, like abandoning the little girl who'd once clung to me, but I knew it was survival. Rumors trickled in from Lake Forest. Sophia was still in the family house, now a crumbling symbol of our parents' legacy. Relatives, smelling blood in the water, were circling, demanding their share of whatever was left. She'd sold off Mom's porcelain collection and Dad's rare books to cover legal fees, but the debts kept mounting. Her Instagram, once a curated shrine to her glamour, went quiet, replaced by tabloid whispers about the fallen Carter heiress. I didn't gloat, there was no joy in her downfall, but I felt a quiet resolve. I'd walked away from $6 million to escape this mess, and I wouldn't let her pull me back. In my apartment, surrounded by my half-finished paintings and the hum of Chicago outside, I found a peace I'd never known in Lake Forest. I was Abigail Carter, not the shadow of Sophia or the scapegoat of Mom's regrets. I'd chosen myself, and that choice, painful as it was, had set me free. I still carried the ache of our broken family, but it no longer defined me. Sophia's fall was her own to bear, and for the first time I was okay with letting her face it alone. A year after I walked away from the Carter family estate, I stood on the balcony of my Logan Square apartment, the Chicago skyline sparkling against the dusk. The city's pulse, honking cabs, distant sirens, the hum of life felt like a heartbeat I'd finally synced with. 35, I was no longer the Abigail Carter who'd lived in Sophia's shadow, chasing approval from parents who'd never fully seen me. I'd found something better, peace. My cozy apartment, once just a refuge from Lake Forest, was now a canvas of my own making, filled with vibrant paintings I'd poured my heart into. Brushstroke, bold reds, deep blues, soft golds was a piece of me reclaimed. My life had shifted in ways I hadn't dared dream of a year ago. At work, I'd been promoted to senior marketing manager, leading campaigns that lit up my creative spark. I'd rekindled my love for painting, spending weekends in my tiny art corner, splattering colors onto canvases that told stories of resilience. My friendships, once overshadowed by family drama, had deepened into a chosen family, people who saw me for me, not as Sophia's sister or the Carters' dutiful daughter. I hosted game nights, laughed over wine, and felt for the first time like I belonged. Sophia lingered in my thoughts, but not with the old bitterness. I'd heard she was still in Lake Forest, tangled in lawsuits and debts from Dad's failed supermarket chain. Her Instagram had gone dark, replaced by rumors of her selling off family heirlooms to stay afloat. I didn't hate her anymore, not the little girl who'd once held my hand under the stars, nor the woman who'd hurt me with her careless cruelty. But I'd learned to protect my peace, to keep the distance I'd fought so hard to earn. Cutting her off wasn't just about survival, it was about choosing myself. Standing on that balcony, the city lights stretching out like a promise, I realized the pain of my family's favoritism had shaped me in ways I hadn't expected. It hurt, God, it hurt, but it also pushed me to build a life that was mine, not defined by Mom's unfulfilled dreams or Dad's blind adoration of Sophia. I didn't need their validation, nor did I need to measure myself against my sister's glittery facade. My worth wasn't in a $12 million estate or their approval. It was in the strength I'd found within, in the woman I'd become, Abigail Carter, free at last. Looking back, I've carried 3 lessons from this journey that I want to share with anyone listening. First, your past doesn't define you, it's fuel. Pain of being overlooked, of feeling less than, can be a fire that drives you to create a life true to who you are. I used to see my family's favoritism as a weight, but now I see it as the push I needed to stand on my own. Second, boundaries aren't selfish, they're sacred. Saying no to Sophia, to the chaos of my family, was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it gave me the space to heal and grow. You deserve to protect your peace, even if it means letting go of people you love. Third, your worth is yours to define. No one, not family, not society, not social media, gets to tell you what you're worth. It's in your choices, your resilience, the way you keep going even when it hurts. I share this not to dwell on the past, but to remind you that freedom is possible, even when it comes with a cost. For me, it was $6 million and a piece of my family. But standing here with Chicago's skyline as my backdrop and my paintings filling my home, I know it was worth it. I'm not the shadow anymore. I'm Abigail, flawed, strong, and finally free. If my story resonates with you, I'd love for you to join me on this journey. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so we can keep exploring what it means to live authentically, to choose yourself, and to find peace in a messy world. Share your own stories in the comments. I read everyone, and I'd love to hear how you're carving out your own path. Let's build a community of people who refuse to live in anyone's shadow. Subscribe now, and let's keep this conversation going.